Chapter 1: The First Civilizations. Early Humans. Main idea. Paleolithic people adapted to their environment and invented many tools to help them survive. History is the story of humans in the past. It tells what they did and what happened to them. Historians are people who study and write about the human past. They tell us that history began about 5,500 years ago when people first began to write. But the story of people really begins in prehistory, the time before people developed writing. Tools of discovery. What we know about the earliest people comes from the things they left behind. Scientists have worked to uncover clues about early human life. Archaeologists hunt for evidence buried in the ground where settlements might once have been. They dig up and study artifacts, weapons, tools, and other things made by humans. They also look for fossils, traces of plants or animals that have been preserved in rock. Anthropologists focus on human society. They study how humans developed and how they related to one another. Historians call the early period of human history the Stone Age. The name comes from the fact that people during this time used stone to make tools and weapons. The earliest part of the period is the Paleolithic or Stone Age. Paleolithic means old stone in the Greek language. Paleolithic times began roughly 2.5 million years ago and lasted until around 8000 BC. Who were the hunter-gatherers? Try to imagine the world during the Stone Age, long before any roadways, farms, or villages existed. Early humans spent most of their time searching for food. They hunted animals, caught fish, ate insects, and gathered nuts, berries, fruits, grains, and plants. Because they hunted and gathered, Paleolithic people were always on the move. They were nomads, or people who regularly moved from place to place. They traveled in bands of 30 or so members because it was safer and made the search for food easier. Men and women did different tasks within the group. Women stayed close to the campsite, which was typically near a stream or other water source. They looked after the children and searched nearby woods and meadows for berries, nuts, and grains. Men hunted animals, an activity that sometimes took them far from camp. They had to learn the habits of animals and make tools for the kill. At first, they used clubs or drove the animals off cliffs. Over time, Paleolithic people invented spears, traps, bows, and arrows. Adapting to the environment. The way that Paleolithic people lived depended on where they lived. Those in warm climates needed little clothing or shelter. People in cold climates sought protection from the weather in caves. Over time, Paleolithic people created new kinds of shelter. The most common was probably made of animal hides held up by wooden poles. Paleolithic people made a life-changing discovery when they learned to tame fire. Fire gave warmth to those gathered around it. It lit the darkness and scared away wild animals. Food cooked over the fire tasted better and was easier to digest. In addition, smoked meat could be kept longer. Archaeologists believe that early humans started fires by rubbing two pieces of wood together. Paleolithic people later made drill-like wooden tools to start fires. What were the Ice Ages? Fire was a key to the survival of Paleolithic people during the Ice Ages. These were long periods of extreme cold. The last Ice Age began about 100,000 BC. From then until about 8,000 BC, thick ice sheets covered parts of Europe, Asia, and North America. The Ice Age was a threat to human life. People risked death from the cold and also from hunger. Early humans had to adapt by changing their diet, building sturdier shelters, and using animal furs to make warm clothing. The mastery of fire helped people live in this environment. Language, art, and religion. Another advance in Paleolithic times was the development of spoken language. Language made it far easier for people to work together and to pass on knowledge. Early people expressed themselves not only in words but in art. They crushed yellow, black, and red rocks to make powders for paint. Then they dabbed this on cave walls, creating scenes of lions, oxen, panthers, and other animals. Historians are not sure why these cave paintings were created. They may have had religious meaning. Early people also might have thought that painting an animal would bring good luck in the hunt. The invention of tools. Paleolithic people were the first to use technology, tools, and methods to help humans perform tasks. People often used a hard stone called flint to make tools. By hitting flint with a hard stone, they could make it flake into pieces with very sharp edges. To make hand axes or hunting spears, they tied wooden poles to pieces of flint that were the right shape for the tool. Over time, early people grew more skilled at making tools. They crafted smaller and sharper tools, such as fish hooks and needles made from animal bones. They used needles to make nets and baskets and to sew hides together for clothing. Reading check. How are fossils and artifacts different?